All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bob Turner. We're back with the Summit podcast. We're here today with Andrew Anderson. He's the author of Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. It's a #1 international bestseller. So, as I've said to you in the past, we're continuing to bring great guests on the Summit here, and this is just another example of that. I'm going to read his bio just because it's too much here to remember. Andrew is an author, a speaker, a master teacher, and trainer, community and spiritual leader, and he's certified life transformation and business productivity coach. As a master practitioner of mental emotional release therapy, a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. He's coached a lot of people, a lot of leaders, helped hundreds of clients get through limiting beliefs and transforming their lives and businesses and finding lasting freedom. So he's driven by his life's mission, which is simple: to influence as many as possible, live a higher level of spiritual strength, and create a life by design. Andrew, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the Summit. I'm glad we found each other. I've talked enough already. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Bob, I just got to express gratitude to you and to the listener. They are investing their time and their energy into what you have created here, and they put a lot of trust in you, and I'm appreciative to be a part of this. You have an incredible tribe that you're serving, and I want to thank them and you for the opportunity to be together today.
Well, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'm happy to talk about myself all day long. And what do you want to know, Bob? I mean, like,
Well,
yeah, ask me some. I'll tell you anything. Anything you want to know,
all
you
right.
ask away.
All right. Well, first of all, I've got my iPad set here. I'm looking at the cover of your book,
Okay,
Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. So they say that everybody's got at least one book in them, right? I
that's
guess my
right.
question for you to open things up is, how did you know it was time to write a book? How did you know what to write about? How long did it take you? What was the process? This looks great, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to get into it and pass it along to our group. We have a group of about, I don't know, 630 people in the Summit
hmm
Facebook community. So, how did you end up with a book?
Well, when I was a little boy and people asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I'll tell you the one thing I never said. I never once
Author.
said I want to be an author. Uh,
Boring, right?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, when I finished my master's degree, I have a master's in education. I was a teacher for 6 years. When I finished my master's, I swore that I would never write anything ever again because I was so tired of writing papers and the thesis.
Right.
So it truly did take an act of God for me to write this book. And here's the story. You ready?
Okay. I'm
I'm
ready.
standing in the Virgin River, Zion National Park, southern Utah. Have you ever been, Bob?
No, it's on my list though.
Okay, you need to put it at the top of your list.
Is that the
It,
one I see everybody walking through, and walking down? Yeah, I got to
yeah,
check it out.
those are called the Narrows. So I'm there for the first time. It's end of January 2020. I had no idea what was going to happen in the world in just a matter of weeks, but I'm having this incredible moment, and I'm looking up at this red rock wall that goes up for, I mean, it looks like just forever. And I had a tear. I had a tear come to my eye, and I just had this moment. I just felt like so like grateful for the magnificence of this just nature, the creation, right?
Right.
And then I felt something even stronger. And what I felt was whether it was a voice or, like thoughts in my head or an angel or God Himself, the words, Andrew, if you're experiencing this in front of a rock, imagine what others could experience when you fulfill the measure of your creation.
Right.
And now it wasn't one tear, it was two out of each eye. And then it was just like, just gushing. And I then heard the words again, whether it was the words or my thoughts, like strength of the oak, strength of the willow. And I knew that that was a book that I needed to write. And so I did it.
Well, congratulations, international bestseller. I was just kind of scrolling through some of the things that you get into in
Mm-hmm.
there. It talks about clarity and vision, seeking the best version of yourself and those things. This is, by definition, a personal development book. Am I
Right.
wrong?
Yeah, no, you're
Yeah.
right on.
And one of the things you talk about, you said the first thing, your limiting beliefs. Can you talk to
Hmm.
us a little bit about limiting beliefs? We talk a lot about that, both in the contractor coaching group I'm a part of, but also in the summit. And I never really realized, myself included, how many people have limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a little bit of what's called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. For the listener, this is
Sure.
simple. I know it sounds like I'm really smart, but let me just dumb it down for you because that's what they had to do for me. Neuro is your brain. Linguistics is how we make meaning of the world, not only through our language, but through all the other senses. So, neuro, how your brain makes meaning and then programs you, neuro-linguistic program, to do and be the person that you are. And when you can identify the decisions that you made unconsciously throughout your life, the beliefs that were created because of those decisions, and then all of the emotions that you experience based upon those beliefs, that's who you are. And most people make decisions not based on logic, they make decisions based on emotion. And
Right.
we are emotional beings, and that those emotions are based off of beliefs that were based off of decisions that we made from the ages of 0 to 8 and 9. And then we get in arguments and we say, "You're acting so childish." Well, the
Right.
truth is, we all are. We all are, Bob. So those decisions that led to those beliefs and the emotions, which create all of the outcomes that we have in our life, are based on mostly things that just aren't true.
Yeah. No, I found that, and I don't know where it came from. I think I commented on a previous podcast. Well, hey, I only kind of felt I was supposed to do so well in life, and I don't know where that came from. And
Yeah.
maybe it comes from just your where you grew up and how everybody generally does. But it wasn't all that long ago. When I started this podcast, I was like, I just feel like I have more to give,
Sure.
and started getting around the right people and started kind of kicking down walls. And
Mm.
that's a pretty powerful place to be when you're like that. Like, why not? Why can't I do that? What would
Mhm.
have to happen for me to be able to do that? So when I saw your book and you had reached out and we got connected, I'm like, I got to get this guy on. I need to hear what he has to say.
Well, and
So
I
thanks for
love.
being here.
Oh man, it's awesome. It's just a privilege. When you talked about kicking down those walls, most people have been programmed or conditioned, right? Whether it was their parents, a coach, a teacher, their sibling, friends, who knows? Like they've been conditioned to be safe and
Right.
to not get hurt or get their feelings hurt or to feel bad about themselves or to fail. And so what they then have is they have all the reasons not to. And when I ask a good friend of mine, why don't you open up a motorcycle shop, rent out motorcycles and other recreational vehicles, and then take people on tours? He gives me all the reasons not to.
Right.
And I said, "This is your passion. This is what you love." And I helped him overcome every single objection. So he's sitting there and he's like, "I have to do this, don't I?" And I'm like, "That's up to you. I just wanted to take away all of the limiting beliefs that were preventing you from doing something that you feel passionate about."
Right. Yeah. It must be called the why exercise or something, but keep asking why.
Yeah,
Well, because of this. Why? Because of this. Why? And then you kind of get down to the core of it, and they're left going, I guess I need to do this. There's
exactly.
no other answer. So, um, well, I was looking at you said you had two things. Well, the first thing is that your limiting beliefs. So you outlined the second thing, and that is your life's mission. And you
Hmm.
talk a lot about that. It says because right now life is happening to you.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about what you mean more by your life mission?
sure. So let's talk about the book title for a second. Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. The thing that's so powerful about the oak, and the reason that it's one of the hardest woods and can live longer than almost any tree, is because what it does from the moment it begins to sprout from the seed, it first sends down a tap root before it ever sends anything up or out. So before it starts to build lateral roots to support its foundation, or before it goes and finds sunlight, it sends a horizontal root down to a source of water. And once it has that source and it's tapped into it, then it has an ability to pull nutrients for forever. I mean, there's some oak
Right.
trees that live for thousands of years. Most people are not grounded and rooted to their purpose, their source, their meaning, whether that's God or the universe or that spirit inside them that they know is just yearning. They don't have that connection. They don't know their mission in life. And if you don't know that mission in life, then everything else that you send out horizontally or upward is going to eventually break down, or it's going to feel like it's just not enough because they don't have that rooted, grounded source of a mission in their life.
That's awesome. So with this book, if somebody's reading this book, do you kind of take them through the process of developing and arriving at their life's mission?
Yes, because no one knows really what that means or how to find and develop that mission statement.
Yeah, one of your subtitle, How to Find Courage and Passion in a Turbulent World.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and
Yeah.
courage is this analogy of the oak. And oak is, you look at it and like, man, what a courageous, what a strong, what a bold tree. And the word courage comes from the French word cœur. And cœur in French means heart. And so courage is something that we lead with from our heart. And then the strength of the willow is not a competitive or a differing strength. It's complementary to the oak. And it's compassion. And compassion is different than courage. Not better or worse, but it's complementary. It's the ability to lead with your heart in a way that can suffer. The word passion means suffering, and calm means with. So we're able to suffer with others and ourselves and give ourselves grace and lead with our heart in a different kind of way rather than a I know everything, have it all figured out, follow me kind of a way.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Do you think that again, you mentioned 2020 when you were
Mm-hmm.
in Utah,
Zion. Yeah.
Zion. So, how much of where you're at today has to do with COVID? Because that was a time when, the world kind of shut down. You were right smack in the middle of that, and all of a sudden now you're writing a book, and I kind of felt like coming out of COVID, I just felt like the world needed more positivity,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody was in a tough spot. And it seems to me like there are a lot of people that still are, whether it's negative self-talk, limiting beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome, you name it. Again, how much of this and where you're at today has to do with kind of what the whole world went through a few years ago?
Yeah. Well, to say anything other than everything, like, I mean, because the answer is everything. Everything that I'm doing today
Yeah.
is a result of what we went through. Because if I'm resisting, like, I'm going to go super philosophical, but I'm going to, again, dumb it down because that's what I've always had to do for myself. And we're going to do it for everyone else, okay? So let's say I'm resisting this moment. If I'm resisting this moment, what happened in the history of the universe to lead to this moment? I mean, just like an infinite number of things. And
Right.
if I'm going to resist what's going on in this moment, then what I'm resisting is the history of the universe.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, if I'm also accepting of what's going on right now, on the flip side, I have to be accepting of everything is exactly as it should be because this is what God and the universe led me to. So I want to just like say that, yeah, everything that happened during COVID prepared me for exactly where I'm at today. And I would have said that if COVID hadn't have happened, right? But I invite the
Yeah.
listener to look back at yesterday, last week, last month, last year, COVID. Look back and ask the question, why did that happen for me? Rather than, why did that happen to me?
Right. I like
When
that.
we can approach challenges and trials and difficulty with that mindset of what is this doing for me and why, rather than why is this happening to me and what is this doing, then we begin to find seeds of potential in every challenge.
That's great. They say that you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with.
Hmm.
Number one, do you believe that? And if so, um, how has your journey through, writing this book and coming into your own as an author, how has that changed either your friend group or the people that you run with, so to speak, if at all?
Yeah, well, I let me tell you about my dad for a moment. This is awesome. My dad's been my biggest fan since Little League. I mean,
Yeah.
he said one of the hardest things he ever had to do was to coach me in baseball, and and
My dad probably would agree with that.
he's been there. He's been there. He's never missed a single thing in my life. An
Right.
incredible man. And yet, for the last 8 years of my professional coaching, he's never once asked me about it or sent anyone my way, referred anyone. But the moment I have a book and he reads my personal story, we're at my daughter's track meet and he says, Andrew, I've texted over 100 people telling them to get your book. This is the greatest salesman in the world. And it's changed my relationship even with my father, and it's helped some of my friends and even clients see the things that I've been through personally. And while they've been impressed by my successes, I'm not in the impressing game. I'm in the impacting game. And it's our
Right.
failures, it's our struggles, it's our weakness and vulnerability that truly impacts others. So it has strengthened those relationships in a way that I had no idea would ever happen. And then it's opened doors for me to meet people like you, and my network expands now just in a compounding way that is just remarkable. I'm just so grateful for the new colleagues and business partners and friends, and just it's been such a blessing.
Yeah, no, that's great. One of the things that I talk to people about, specifically the people I work with, is the difference between scarcity and abundance
Yes.
mindset. And I think that I don't want to say that the scarcity comes more naturally to people, or maybe it's easier, but getting them to think in an abundance mindset, whether it's picturing themselves, I don't know, making 250 a year instead of 50, or
Yeah.
stepping in, whether, hey, go write that book, or hey, chase
Hmm.
down that big job and be willing to accept it. Do you see a lot of that as well, that scarcity versus abundance mindset stuff?
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned something interesting. Like maybe it's easier. Let me ask you this. What's easier? Bench pressing 250 pounds or letting go of a 250-pound rock as it goes tumbling down the side of a cliff?
Right. Yeah.
But we've been conditioned to believe that somehow we were meant, we deserve, we are created to suffer and to experience just the worst of life. And now everything becomes something that is forced, and it becomes grit. And we write books about, grit and grind and we feel like we have to have some superpower to make it through life. But when you look around in nature, Bob, do you see anything else that God created that is like forcing? It's like, I mean, are there
No.
mother does out there that are asking for an epidural because it's too hard to go through
No.
labor? And I'm not taking that away from any woman that's given labor, because my wife has had seven, not
Right.
seven. She's had four. My other wife had three. So I have seven children together, right? I've been married
Wow.
twice, not at the same time. So I'm not taking anything away from labor. Like, it is hard, and if you get the epidural,
Yeah.
yeah. But nature, it works. But it doesn't. It's not work. It's not like forced. And when we get into that state of abundance and acceptance, it's a state of flow. And when you're in a state of flow, you become a force of nature, no longer having to force anything against your nature.
Yeah. No, I get that. A great analogy too. Talk to me about self-awareness. You
Mhm.
obviously had a time where maybe that kind of spiked, or maybe it was a time where you're, looking up and had an epiphany. Um, was there a time when you really kind of recognized that you were becoming more self-aware about just how you were looking at life and what your purpose was and your mission?
Well, self awareness is a superpower. And when I can help a client have that awareness, it opens up so many possibilities for them. And chapter 1 of my book is actually called Grounded, and it starts out with me in my parents' basement. And I was going through a separation that turned into a divorce. We've been married for 7 years. We had the 3 beautiful little girls together. And my entire life mission felt like it had been failed. I believed that I had failed God, I'd failed my wife, I'd failed my daughters, and I would never become what I was meant to become. And that opened up, from a place of self-awareness, things about myself, about my family and my friends that could have never been seen had I not been laying flat on my back, cursing everything and everyone for the situation that I had found myself in.
Yeah, it sounds like when you got to a place where maybe you accept that you and only you are going to get yourself out of it. It's probably when you got up and got moving, right?
That's right. And then I recognized that I would never be able to do it on my own. That was another huge realization. I had believed that a lot of my successes up to that point in my life, 28 years old, were because of my doing. Well, if I get to take 100% credit for all of it being my doing, what else do I get to take 100% credit for? All of it being my fault.
Right.
And so I truly turned to family, friends. I built this foundation on faith, and I became extremely hungry and just famished and just searching for anyone and anything that could help build my growth. And that was one of, I think, the secrets. And it's why you're doing this, because you want to provide resources and people to those that think that maybe they're trying to get through life solo.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I've said this before, when I felt as though I had more to give, and I just started coming from a place of service on everything, and not worrying about reciprocity or getting paid or whatever, just giving my time.
Mm-hmm.
Good things started to happen, and even with the clients that I work with, we'll talk on the phone, we'll do a Zoom call, we'll focus on 1 or 2 things, and I'll be damned if the next day they don't text me and say, hey, the thing we were talking about yesterday, it happened. And I'm
Yeah,
like, and they're like, you're my good luck charm. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that. Maybe it's that you get more of what you focus on.
exactly.
What do you think of that kind of stuff and manifestation and power of positive thinking? Can you talk about that for a minute?
Right. Well, without super nerding out over quantum physics, which is a field that I just feel really passionate about. I mean, if you do not believe that you have creative powers within you, then how do you explain the repopulation of the world, right? Like children. Like if you can create a child out of something inside you, then what else can you create? Right? I mean,
Right.
we're going to go quantum physics, Bob. We're going to take
All
your
right.
people, and
Let's
here we
go.
go. I'm a teacher at heart. We're going to make this super simple. As my 9th grade
All right.
art teacher said, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So we're going to keep it simple here. Quantum, Bob. Quantum is the smallest measurement we have. And physics are the protons, neutrons, and electrons that make up the physical world around us. So a quantum physicist studies what's going on at the smallest measurement between protons, neutrons, electrons. They call it subatomic. And do you know what happens if you split an atom? If you split a hydrogen atom,
No.
you get a hydrogen bomb,
I
and we
used to
call
know.
it's an atomic bomb.
Right.
There is so much power and potential energy within one atom that if you split the right atom and do it the right way, you can blow up an entire city with an atomic bomb.
Right.
And we are made up of, we can't even count the trillions of atoms inside of us. What does that mean about your and mine and everyone else's potential?
Limitless.
It's limitless. You have an infinite amount of potential energy inside you. And if you can create another human, or as I have 5 and then I brought 2 into my home, if you can create a human, what else can you summon, right, from the universe because of the powers that you have to manifest or to bring forth, or God sends you, whatever your belief is, in your life. Anything. It is
Right.
infinite possibilities.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I mean, you can choose what you allow in, right?
Yes.
And I've had some times where, negativity's coming at me, and one of my friends said, just kind of go, when
Brush
something,
it
it's
off.
like, you feel, yeah, just, yeah, we don't let that in. I don't, and I've said recently, I don't have the bandwidth for that.
Mm,
I'm not, I'm not allowing that to take from me mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever, and
right.
just kind of go, I'm good there.
Mm-hmm.
Or if and that might be a certain person,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's just somebody in your friend group or business associate, or like somebody that you would say to, instead of saying, "Hey, how are you today?" you might shift and say, "Hi,"
Yeah.
because when you say, "How are you today?" you go, "Whoa!" So,
Mm-hmm.
um, how do you deal with people like that have like negative self-image, negative a lot of negative self-talk, and they exude that, and you're trying to kind of like, hey, I'm over here trying to be better. I'm over here. I'm working on personal development, but you're kind of bringing me down. How do you kind of stick and move through those kinds of things?
Well, there's several approaches. The one is to keep doing that, to put up the defense and to try to resist it. And have you ever heard the phrase, what you resist persists?
Yes.
I love that. I think Eckhart Tolle is one of the first people that I heard say that. What you resist persists. And in my book, I add to that. And I say, if what you resist persists, then what you lean into, you learn from. So rather than
Okay.
coming from this place of resistance and frustration, we can change that into something that we become fascinated by. And when we transform frustrations into fascinations, when you're fascinated by something, what do, Bob? You ask questions, you learn everything you
Yeah.
can, you become inquisitive and passionate. And now, instead of this person, okay, let's pretend like I have this evil neighbor, and I tried to ask him if we could, cut down these vines that are growing between our fences, and we talk about it, and he says that's great. And then I call him on the phone, and I knock on his door, and for a week he doesn't answer, and I go ahead and cut those down anyways because he said we could. And then I find out later that he's on a cruise, and now he's calling the police on me because I cut down these vines. I'm just saying, this is not, it's someone I know, it's not me. Let's say I have this evil neighbor that calls the HOA president and the police because I cut down these vines that we verbally agreed to while he was on a cruise. If I resist him, if I push back, you know what he's going to do? He's going to sue me.
Push harder.
He's
Yeah.
going to push harder. And you know what I did? I said, neighbor, I am so sorry. I had misunderstood. I had believed that we agreed to this. I knocked on your door. I called you. There was nothing. I didn't know where you were. What can I do to make this right? Oh, you. So my wife goes, we buy him 2 of these plants. We say we will repot them, we'll replant them. I said, I will clean up everything that fell on your side of the fence that didn't come on mine. I'll take it to the dump. Like, I'm here to make this right, rather than resisting and being frustrated and causing further problems. You know what I tell myself? I tell myself, I bet that he probably had a really, really terrible childhood. He was
Probably.
probably
Yeah.
abused as a kid.
Yeah.
And when someone is showing up in a way that I want to put up my defense, I just make up a news story. You know what? I bet they're having a really hard time at home right now with their spouse or their kids, or maybe they're getting, laid off at work, and I just make up a story that makes it seem like it's not okay. It doesn't justify their behavior, but it helps me understand it.
Hmm.
So rather than resisting, we're now leaning into, in Aikido, which is a form of martial arts, you use that energy that they bring to you, and instead of resisting it, you take it and you move with it to your benefit to help protect you. And
Right.
so moving with something is a lot better than resisting it.
No, I like that. It makes me think because instead of just kind of retracting or pulling back, I'll tend to disengage. Say,
Sure.
but maybe dig into a little bit of that with some people and say, or ask, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? You know,
Yeah,
what figure out where they're coming from on it.
exactly. And it's simple
Yeah,
because once we do that, we open up the quantum field of possibility. There's now new
right,
possibilities here because we know exactly what's going to happen if we resist. And so
right.
we just let the guard down. We become vulnerable ourselves. We accept and take any and all blame that we may have contributed. And then we see what we can create together.
Yeah, that's one thing I've tried to be good at with my business is in contracting business, is just saying, hey, listen, whatever
Yeah.
happens here, good or bad, you can usually, especially the bad, you can trace back to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was either I didn't give enough detail or I didn't price something right. But when you get to that level of self accountability, I guess
Right.
it's a good place to be because you have to kind of check your ego at the door. Um, and with our company, and I've got a guy, Ryan, that works with me. Like, hey, I may not always have the best idea.
Mm-hmm.
Come in if you want to tell me something different way to do it. Let's do it. Leave the ego in the truck. So,
Yeah.
try to create a positive culture. And one of the things that we're doing now before we hire somebody, we're doing an assessment.
Mm.
Like well, you've heard of like Myers-Briggs or whatever.
Yeah.
Just kind of figuring out where people fit on the wheel. So we've got a
Mm-hmm.
fighting chance of communicating with them in a way that they like to be communicated with
Yeah. No,
versus
that's powerful.
trying to fit somebody in our organization. We're trying to kind of I literally had this conversation today with an admin type of person that we're going to bring on and say, hey, um, you know, have you done one of these tests? Where are you
Yeah.
on this wheel? Because
Right.
he and I are up here. We need somebody down here,
Yeah.
doing this
Yeah.
stuff. So
Oh,
good
that's great.
stuff. I mean, getting back to the book, if somebody picks up your book and reads it, what are you hoping they get from it?
I hope that they see something in themselves that maybe they've never seen before. That they can fall in love and feel a little bit of courage. That they can also have a little bit of compassion for the journey that they've been on as they put themselves in my shoes and come out of it with a little bit of hope. And not only that, but with a commitment to take action on what they saw. Just like I saw something in myself at Zion's National Park, standing in the Virgin River, I want them to see something in themselves and do something about it.
That's cool. I just scrolled onto this quote. It says, so you can go 100% all in on your most important purpose in this world.
That's right. And we
Yeah.
all have that. Whether you think you do or you don't, you do. If you have the power to create life inside you, then certainly you have the power to create some incredible things that you've never seen or felt, or it's there. It's inside you. And if
Yeah.
you can take my word for it, I know how to get it out and allow it to serve the world.
Well, that's great. So, in addition to the book, what else are you doing? You're doing some coaching, some speaking. Like, what's a typical day for you, and where are you going from here?
Oh, yeah. Well, a typical day for me starts out in the morning with a baby who wakes up, I don't know when. And if I can get a workout in, I'm grateful. This morning I said, honey, I'm going on a mountain bike ride with our neighbor and another friend. I'm doing this. And I like to start my days off in quietude, either if exercise right now if I can with our baby, but certainly I like to be in scripture. I like to journal. I like to have time to meditate and really get going before anyone else gets going around me. Set my mind, set my body, set my soul for the day. And then I get to come in and I have about 30 plus coaching clients that I work with in a one-on-one. I'm doing online courses that we're launching that they can find on our website and social media. And then I get to do keynote speaking events and trainings for different audiences. And book number 2 is about halfway done, and it'll be coming out next year.
Oh, that's great. You've got a lot going on. 30 one-on-one clients. I wrote that down. Like, I gotta ask him how he does
Well, I
that.
had 46, and then I decided that with the launch of the book and the baby, and we did a retreat. I just said we need to we need to reconsider how we're approaching our mission for our business here.
You must do some serious time blocking.
Oh, if you looked at my calendar, you would laugh. Um,
Yeah. No, I know. I've talked with your assistant, so I know
yeah,
you're a busy
she's
guy.
in charge of it. I don't even know. I just say, what are we doing today? And
Right.
she's awesome.
Well, I talked to a bunch of people, and it's amazing how often morning routine comes up,
Yeah.
and I see it as a trait of a lot of the people that I talk with. They're very successful. They they're not snooze button people,
Hmm.
you know. Although the one person I did hear talk about the snooze button that uses it for 9 minutes of sitting there and doing gratitude and
Yeah.
affirmations and all that. It's not for snooze. It's just a
It's for,
timer to
yeah.
very distinctly outline the time he plans for that kind of stuff. But I mean, these aren't guys. I mean, if you're watching this podcast, the people that we're having on here, they're not laying in bed in the morning. They're not sleeping in on Saturday. They're getting up and kicking it and trying to find a way to have impact in the world. Andrew, you're doing that on a high level.
Thank you.
It's kind of cool to watch. I'm super glad to connect with you.
Well, here's
You know, it,
let me share a secret if I can with you about that
yeah,
morning routine. You can go get the Miracle Morning or any of the other books that teach you how to do it.
yeah,
But this is it, right? Okay, this is the secret to the morning routine. Go to bed.
right,
Like, go to bed. Don't
yeah,
lay on the couch falling asleep watching something. Like, have the nighttime routine that your parents were so strict about when you were growing up. Go back to that. It worked. We have 7 kids. It
yeah,
works. And if you can go to bed at a committed time and keep that commitment, then it takes that energy and compounds so that you can keep the next commitment, which is waking up. So your morning routine starts with your nighttime, your bedtime routine. Go to bed, be purposeful. Last night I had a headache.
yeah.
I lay down in bed. It was not even 9 o'clock. I had all my clothes on, and I laid there until my headache went away. And I didn't try to do anything else. I just knew that if I was going to wake up and go mountain biking and do my routine, I had to nail my nighttime
Hmm.
routine. I didn't take any drugs. I didn't drink myself to sleep. I just laid there. I leaned into it. I told my wife what I was experiencing. She sat there by me with our baby, and I was able to get up and do this. Because if not, I would have been hungover or whatever. I wouldn't have been able to be prepared to serve your people and my friends on the mountain bike trails today.
That's awesome. What do you typically get for sleep on a given night?
My goal is 7 hours uninterrupted, which is impossible with a baby. But my goal is 7 hours. My goal is to be asleep by 10 and up at 5. And if I can go to sleep earlier or sleep in a little bit past 5, 5:30, 6, I'm super grateful. But 10 to 5 is my ideal.
Yeah, and I've heard some people talk about that recently, talking about sleep, that 10 p.m. to 5. Problem is you get in bed at 10 and then it's 10:30 and then that damn Netflix, right? And then you get
Yeah.
into a
Okay, here's the
you
next
get into a
secret, right?
series.
Okay, my sister once gave me, she said, this is the best marriage advice you'll ever receive. And I was a teenager at the time, and I'm like, I'm not ready for this. She's like, no, seriously. She said, the best marriage advice. So from Elisa Anderson Compton, this is my sister. She said, best marriage advice ever, floss. She told me that flossing is the best thing you can do for your marriage. Now, that's her marriage advice. My marriage advice, I think flossing may be number 2. Number 1, best marriage advice, relationship advice from Andrew L. Anderson. TVs and beds don't go together.
Right.
We don't
Yeah.
have a TV in our bedroom. That's my second. So if you can floss and keep the TV out of the bed or the bedroom, you're going
Yeah.
to have a great relationship.
No, it's funny. I've got a big TV here and it's all set up nice in my condo and there'll be some periods of times where and I'm talking just out in the living room. I have one in the bedroom that hasn't been on in a long time, but
Mhm.
um, I'll go a week, 2, 3 weeks. I don't turn the TV on. I'm trying to write a blog, or I'm doing my
Mhm.
coaching group, or I'm thinking, planning world domination. Did you have it? As you rolled into this book and the things that you're doing, did you have a time when you're like so focused on this that everything else just kind of fades away?
No.
You stayed in pretty good balance.
because I had 6 children and a wife, and I had 46 coaching clients. So when did I write my book? 5 o'clock in the morning when no one was
Yeah,
awake. When did I write my book? When a client had to reschedule and cancel. When did I write my book? When the kids were in bed and my wife was in the bathtub and I could squeeze in
right.
20 minutes. That's the thing. People say, how do you have time to write a book? How do you have time to run a marathon? I'm not a marathon runner, but for those that are, people say, how do you have time to do that? Well, you have 24 hours and I have 24 hours. We all have the same amount of time. This is not a time management problem. This is a self-management problem. What you choose to
Right.
do in that time is freedom. Choice in time equals freedom. We all have a choice of what we're going to fill our time with. You can be a creator
Yeah.
or you can be a consumer. And you
Yeah.
have found that when you're not consuming, it empowers you to create. And so I invite everyone to be a creator. Find that strength within you, that life mission, and go and do something with it rather than consuming everyone else's and leaving this ecosystem just lacking.
Yeah. I was that's good stuff. I was in the grocery store the other day, and I, I wait as long as I can to go. Right. Seeing what I have in the pantry that I can eat dry
Sure.
goods. I'm like, I just don't want to go. So finally cracked and went. And I'm looking around at the general public, and I'm going, we just got to be better.
Mm-hmm.
There's people in there in sweatpants and
Yeah.
pajamas and slippers. I'm like, what happened to
Well,
everybody?
Bob,
You
I'm
know?
not I'm not trying to be judgmental here, but I might invite you to go to different grocery stores because if it starts with a
Yeah,
W and ends with T,
yeah,
called
right.
Walmart. I mean, there's different
Yeah.
kinds of grocery stores with different kinds of people.
Whew. I'm looking around going, this is this is where it's at, I guess. But
No, it's not.
uh yeah, crazy. Well, I love what you're doing. I can't wait
Thank
to
you.
I'm going to dive into this. Speaking of that, what do you read? What are you reading right now, and what are some of the books that you've been through recently?
Oh, what a wonderful question. So, if someone wants to ask me for my reading list, I actually have a book, or a list of my favorite books. I'm happy to share that at any time on social media, or they can email me. We'll give all that information later. But
Okay.
um, let me tell you exactly what I'm listening to right now. I'm listening to Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. I'm listening to I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I'm re-listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I'm
Yep.
re-listening to Metahuman by Deepak Chopra. And then I'm reading The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. And I always have several books going on because I get tired and I like to jump between them. So
Yeah.
I'm reading, I only read one or two at a time. Uh, and I like to vary what I'm reading. So those are some of the things that I'm reading right now.
Audible's great, isn't it?
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I get through one, I get excited to start another. So I'm like, I'll just start this one.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I've got two or three of them going, and one on the end table by the couch, and I sit. I like to get up early. I call it my world domination time, my
Mm-hmm.
strategy sessions. Just me and the dog and a cup of coffee, and it's
Yep.
sometimes when I do some of my best thinking. But
Yes.
I had so many things that I want to do, and I've said to some people, I feel like I'm kind of late to this game. Of say personal at age 53. I'm like, man, I should have started this stuff
Yeah,
10
it's
years
all
ago.
good. It's all good.
But it's been a blast, and get to hang out with people like you,
Mm-hmm.
and just level up my network of people that I can call and chat with and run things by is just invaluable. So, as we wrap up, what would you? I always kind of give people the floor and say, "Hey, there's a bunch of people listening to this. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're certainly not, I said it on the last one. We're not Joe Rogan, or we're
Yeah.
not big time, but we've got a bunch of people watching.
Yep.
You know, whether it's something from your book or just kind of something that you've gained for wisdom that you've been through in the last few years, what would you share with everyone?
You're doing better than you think you are. You're doing a lot better than you think you are. You're more than enough. People are always, I'm not good enough, mom. I'm not good enough. This, boss. Am I enough? I mean, you're not. You're not enough. You're more than enough. You are more than enough. You're doing far better than you think you are. If you could see what I get to see as a coach when people sit down here in my office or they join me on a video chat or I get to talk to them, if you could see and feel what I see and feel, it's this feeling like when I get to hold one of my children and you look at them and it's just pure love and all you see is potential and all you experience is just joy. Like We all have that. Nothing changed. You're still as precious and lovable and worthy and capable as you were when you were a tiny little baby. And maybe you just need someone to pick you up and hold you and tell you that for a moment. And let me be that person. I will always fight harder for someone's potential and their life mission than I will ever allow them to hold on to any limiting beliefs that they are carrying. So let me do that for you today. If you don't believe in you, let me believe in you, just for today. And then guess what? You're going to wake up and it'll be today again. And if you want to hear my voice, get the Audible. I recorded it myself. I am the author, Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. Let me be that voice in your head telling you that I believe in you, even if you don't.
I don't think there's anything more to say. That was a great closing. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. I can't wait to share this with everybody in our group. One of the things that resonated with me today is choice, time, equal freedom.
That's right.
You left us. You dropped some nuggets here, some atomic bombs.
There you go. There you go.
Love it, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you very much, guys. Andrew Anderson, Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. Check it out. International bestseller. We'll put all the details in the notes. And best way to get a hold of you, Andrew, is email or.
Can I give your people a gift?
Yeah.
They have sat here, they ran, they were biking, they were cleaning their house, they were sitting on the toilet. I don't know what they were doing, but they spent time listening to this, and the least I could do would be to give them something back for spending this time with it. And I would just invite them to send an email, and you'll put this in the notes, but it's Andrew at andrewlanderson.com. And Anderson is spelled O-N. So Andrew at andrewlanderson.com. And if you just put Bob Turner offer in the subject line, tell us your name, and then what we're going to do is we're going to send you, we're going to give you a choice. We're going to send you a choice between two different gifts that will be extremely valuable as you are looking to find this purpose, this passion, this life mission, the strength of the oak and willow, that courage and compassion that's inside you that is just yearning to ignite. So send me that email. Follow me on social media at AndrewLAnderson85, and I want to be a giver for you.
Cool. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Guys, this has been one of my favorite episodes of the Summit podcast. Sometimes when I'm going into a virtual one, it's to me not as intimate, but I feel like this has been great. I feel like you were sitting right here in my office, so thank you. You're making me believe more in these virtual ones. I'm going to have to do more of them as we kind of expand our reach. So thanks for being willing to do it. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll talk with you real soon.
You got it.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, take care. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.